Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining this webinar. I'm very happy to welcome you all to today's session that we're going to do on designing future-ready policies for modern teams. I'm your host, Ramesh, and I take care of the partner relations for the travel and expense solution here at Zoho. And today here, I'm thrilled to have Gavin with us today, Gavin Smith. So he's the director at Element Technology Services, and he's also a Zoho authorized partner. And he has over a decade and a half experience in the travel industry and a very deep expertise in helping modern organizations design their travel and expense strategies. So, Gavin, if you would like to go ahead and give a quick hi to the team, and then we can jump into the session.
Hey everyone, thanks Ramesh. Great to be part of the webinar. As you said, yes, we are a Zoho partner. Background in T&E for those who don't know me. We're also helping smaller businesses run better with technology, and the focus is really around T&E and expense. That's where my background lies. So looking forward to having a chat with you and hopefully helping smaller businesses understand how T&E or even expense management can help their business from a cash flow, visibility of spend, and improve sort of the employee experience for their business. So yeah, let's crack on.
Great. That sounds great, Gavin. So, I mean, before we, go ahead and directly have a chat on this specific topic and get your expert views on the same, I just wanted to set the context for the session. So, I mean, just for all the audience sake. So here's the thing. I mean, if a company's travel and expense policy hasn't fundamentally changed, let's say in the last 3 to 5 years, it's probably working against you, right? So, I mean, between the entire hybrid work, being reshaping where teams are operating from different parts of the world, a lot of regulatory changes and making tax digital, creating new sort of compliance requirements, and employees expecting flexibility and transparency in terms of the entire travel and expense policies. The older playbook that companies had, it doesn't just cut it anymore. So that's one of the major reasons today we are exploring what truly future-ready travel and expense policies will look like, and why smaller SMEs especially need to move quicker on this, and what concrete steps you can take starting from this week, right? So I mean, and Gavin, before we dive into it, I just wanted to considering your experience working with travel and expense applications, what's the one thing that surprised you most when you started working with companies on T&E policy modernization?
I think the biggest thing was, smaller businesses thinking that travel and expense policy and even that software is not applicable to them because they don't need it. But actually getting them to understand that from an employee perspective, what it allows an employee to help manage their spend on behalf of the company, and also finances, visibility, and there's no shocks afterwards, and also helping employees know that how they can spend companies' money was probably the three biggest things that were a shock, where they didn't really understand how a policy and the software that goes with it can really help them improve so many areas with small wins for not a lot of massive change. People want to help. They want to do the right thing. Just tell them how to do it.
That's right. That's really important. I totally understand it. No, I mean, with respect to the future-ready T&E policies for modern businesses, I'd like to start with addressing the elephant in the room. Why do you think this matters right now? I mean, we talked about hybrid work, the compliance, but why can't companies just patch their older policies? What's the real business impact of not being able to rethink of creating future-ready policies?
I think a lot of the policies that we see in place are probably sitting in a PDF or some inaccessible area. They've been built off the back of probably spreadsheet completion, sending pieces of paper in, stapled to a piece of paper in an envelope for somebody to manually check. as opposed to understanding how the policy can flex using technology and helping putting people in, giving guide rails around what's going on. And also, understanding that government fiscal requirements have changed. They don't need you to, store pieces of paper on a piece of paper in a box in a building. Electronic records for in the UK, for example, have been acceptable for 15 odd years plus. And so, there is that part of it. There is your finance part of it, and finance is wanting to do the right thing. They don't want to be spending time checking finances or expenses months, 6 months afterwards. So, and also margins are tight around where we are. Companies don't have room for leakage. Visibility and policies that only get checked off the money's gone doesn't really help. Now, it's not about adding complexity. It's really, again, about just putting some simple guardrails in place so people are guided to spend correctly at the point it happens and not reviewed afterwards. But also being confident that the company allows them to manage to spend money on their behalf, that they don't have to spend their own money and not be able to claim it back because they're not sure. And that's a key thing for smaller businesses.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on there, Kevin. I mean, it becomes really important for both the finance team to be able to, reduce the load of work that they'd have to do in manually reviewing the receipts or the transactions, and at the same time for the employees as well, make the process much more easier, right? Because electronic receipts have been there in the, in the business for a longer time now, like you pointed out. So what do you think, goes wrong with traditional or let's say static policies? So I imagine that it's not just policies are boring, kind of a statement, but what are the operational failures, or let's say what are the top failures that you see repeatedly? I mean, and how do these actually cost companies money?
Yeah. Mainly what we see when we come into a company that we're gonna, put in an expense solution or looking at their policy, is that it's not really been kept up to date. Finance is stuck chasing receipts, creating exceptions. They're finding explanations. They're losing time. Recoverable costs just aren't being looked at. In terms of the pitfalls, it's really being able to, again, helping the businesses embed the process within themselves, using that technology, using a live tool, using some guidance of tool that allows to flex. Very old stuff is very flexible because it was built on a spreadsheet with a drop down that could only allow certain specifics and parameters in it. And we have fiscal requirements. We have MTD coming in the UK, where I know there is a focus on financial tools, but an expense tool is a very key part of that expense of that MTD environment. And I know it's on the smaller end, but actually that, understanding how you can use digital records to improve your business and be able to capture those and structure that data in a way from an employee expense perspective, really then starts to allow a business to understand better what's happening with employees, where the spend is, where the leakage is, because you're getting structured data for how you're going to use the modern technology around AI or LLMs to be able to analyze what's going on. And that's really helping you to get that sort of end-to-end full sort of picture around your employee expense, which is travel and sort of non-travel related items around when they go and entertain people and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely, Gavin. I think, I mean, expense management is mostly one of those leaky buckets that's usually ignored by a lot of businesses. So it becomes, I mean, it's and also like you rightly pointed out, it is one of the most important pieces of the entire finance block, because that's where a larger amount of the money gets leaked away, without any, I mean, without no one noticing it, or you just ignoring it. Uh, so, I mean, I totally understand that. I mean, for that context, you're saying that, a policy that is future-proof is really required. Now, I mean, I just wanted to define our terms clearly here. Now, when you say a policy is future-ready, what exactly does it mean? So, I'm just trying to understand. Is it Is it something more deeper than AI? Is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, no, it's not necessarily more detailed. It's probably more responsive. You're moving away. So the definitions of the policy may be saying you can spend X here and Y there, but they're not as static. They're adapted by a rule or a location or context through the technology you're using. So it's giving guidance during, say, for example, travel booking or a submission from when you've claimed it. It's also automatically making checks around what is allowed via HMRC. VAT, ensuring that your receipt has a VAT element to it. So if you're going to claim VAT where applicable, you can do it. And sort of real-time checks to make sure that it's, that things are going on, and reminding you that as you change your behaviors, and that is about adding expenses as you do them, not waiting for a month, 6 months down the line. So your business has visibility, and the tool is already checking to make sure, hey, what's going on? Finance can see actually this person's accumulating stuff. There's reminders to get it. So if you are spending money on your own that you have to get reimbursed for, you're getting it back quickly. And because the company doesn't want to rely on your money for their cash flow, they want to get it back to you. So I think those are the key things around getting it future ready. It's really getting clear guidance during the booking and submission, automatic application of fiscal rules, and real-time checks, which really ultimately benefit the business and the employee.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that definitely makes sense too. I mean, can you give us a kind of a breakdown, or let's say a side-by-side comparison between the traditional approach versus the future-ready policy approach?
Yeah, I suppose I'll give you an example. I'm part of a Merchant Chamber of Commerce, for example, and there's a decent-sized consultancy business that I know is on modern accounting equipment. There's a couple of their salespeople I see all around. And actually, I asked them about expense, and they're right. We don't even know what an expense module is. They don't even have a policy. And I know this guy's out there selling in the community, creating receipts, doing stuff. And the accounting was like, wow, for me, that's old school. And whereas opposed to a business that I'm recently put in place where they recognize they're in 4 countries, they know what they need to do, and they put in place a policy because actually they needed to do that to be able to create that visibility to take away the cost of managing all those submissions and expenses, because it's not only finance. In a larger organization, and this business had 50 odd people in it, you've got 3 levels, you've got approvals that go through it, and actually managers themselves are spending a lot of time having to take on that first line of audit to make sure expenses are working. So when you're putting in a sort of a new environment, a new modern technology, well, not modern technology, that helps them do their job quicker. They want to be involved. They will ensure that things are done right, as opposed to them receiving an envelope with some paper in it on stapled to paper that they have to check against a spreadsheet, and it's costing them hours in a month to do. So for me, those are the key sort of comparisons between an old and a new environment, in that, why technology is there. Don't be afraid of it, use it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, Gavin. And to be very surprising, even in the year 2026, we still get customer requests where, I mean, we kind of generally do a check on what systems they were previously using in place for expense management, right? And even now we get responses that a lot of these businesses still continue to use spreadsheets or nails for expense submission and approvals, right? So, I mean, like you rightly said, when there's a technology out there to that can help you, ease out the problem, embrace it and use it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
the
a great
last
advice over there.
the last 5 expense implementations we've done with companies, how we've
Mhm,
managed their policies using a spreadsheet to determine how we configure Zoho expense. So that shows
mhm.
people say, who are your competitors? And I go, it's a spreadsheet. And getting people to spreadsheets is harder than anything else, but getting to understand that that static piece of a spreadsheet is not necessarily giving you as a business what you need is when people decide, okay, yeah, let's move on. You know.
That's right. That's right. Definitely, definitely. And I mean, every modern framework, as you know, has different pillars and foundations, right? So can you point us, I mean, or let us know what are the core pillars of a future-ready travel and expense policy? And I mean, and more specifically, I mean, why these? I mean, why do we have to depend on these pillars specifically? If you can take us through that, it'll be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. I think the key things that we see are sort of dynamic policies, and people go, dynamic, what does that mean? It's really understanding and having a look at what people do and configuring tools to allow them to expense within areas. London, you're not going to find a hotel for £100 a night. So you have to say maybe it's 250 a night. But for example, I don't know, you're going down to Cornwall, you might find a hotel for 50. But so putting in place flexibility around that, knowing that a meal, if you're taking a customer out in London, will be more expensive. And somebody that's, could be New York, San Francisco, could be Paris, Munich, Dubai, wherever, Auckland, Sydney, the same principle applies. But making sure that you're taking into account how people can and will spend your money. Give them, prompt them around compliant options and flag if something is out of policy or presents a risk. And that's not stopping them from doing it, but allowing them to understand what's going on. And again, have that built-in flexibility. Changes happen, cancellations, emergencies, build that into place for that to allow to happen. So things can be expensed from a cancellation of an airline that may be refundable, put it through, but actually allow the person to say, I've canceled it because of whatever, and then I will push the refund through, and having things like that in place. Together, that'll give you some sort of, for an SME, a sort of enterprise level control without having the enterprise level complexity, because you don't have as many layers and countries and people involved.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, when we are talking about expense management, as a software, or let's say even as a domain, we often see that. I mean, I'm sure you might have come across this as well. There are a lot of different departments or stakeholders who are involved whenever we talk about expense management. So we have the finance team on one hand, who is processing all the reimbursements for the employees or making sure that the payments reach the employees. On the other hand, we have the HR department who often define the travel and expense specific policies. And then there's also employees, whose I think, I mean, the requirements in terms of being able to have a transparent travel and expense policy and a user-friendly tool to be able to use to submit their expenses. So how, I mean, basically all these different departments or different members care about different things, right? What specific wins do you see for the finance team, the employees, and the HR department when when a company implements such a future-ready policy in their organization?
Perfect. I think, within all of that, I think the key beneficiary is probably employees. Everyone else could say, no, it's finance and HR, but actually, it's the people who work for you. They want to be able to do the things right. They want to be able to, expense and provide that information in a timely fashion and a much smoother experience. It does impact from an HR perspective. Yes, they get, they get duty of care, they get sustainability, audit, and that kind of stuff. But actually becomes part of the hiring process and going, actually, we have a really good expense tool and expense process in place, which doesn't mean you wait 90 days or 180 days. We expense on a monthly basis. And we pay within 7 days. Why? The technology's there, it helps out. And then from finance, basically, they're getting faster closes on month ends. They're getting clear and actually real-time visibility, because if you change employees' habits to expense as they go along, with that information sitting in the tool, actually that visibility, even though it's not been submitted, the finance team can already see what's coming along. And so when they're managing that sort of that expenditure against the budget, they can see what's going on. So there's no real surprises of a 5 or 10 grand, I don't know, 50 grand thing coming through, because they've already seen it, they know about it, and they might actually go, hang about what's going, or they can see, it's fewer manual checks. There is, the technology is there to help improve around. We don't want to be negative, but sometimes two employees might submit the same receipt, for example. Technology stops that from happening. So there's many benefits, but I'd say, the employee gets the biggest benefit knowing, hey, I can spend the money, I can send it to you, and I'm going to get it back a lot quicker. And the rest of you get the benefits from that.
That's right. And like they say, happier employees, happier company, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also for the finance team, like you rightly pointed out, when the budgets are all pre-configured in the system, you know what you're anticipating from the employee, right? So you're not just like, hey, an employee just coming in, uh, sending you a sheet for £1,000 of reimbursement, right? So you know that there's a budget in place, and you know that the technology is going to stop the employee if they're trying to go above the limits that you've predefined. That's really a good example over there, Gavin. And
Definitely.
yeah,
It's the accounting process, because accruing for expenses that you think are going to come in after month, we speak to a lot of financial controllers who really want to be able to close out that month end, put it away, done, get the actuals going, so they have a better understanding of the state of their business, which is really crucial in an SME environment. Larger corporates, they can take some of that, they can flex to be able to around that, but a smaller company really can't, because every pound earned is hard spent. So they want to make sure that they have visibility of what's going on.
that's right. That's right. Exactly. And okay, this is where it is going to get interesting. So, I mean, we talked about a lot of these enterprise solutions. Enterprise level solutions that we were talking about. But you've emphasized more on SMEs actually need this more urgently than larger corporates. Why do you think so? And what's unique about the SME challenge here?
I think larger corporates, and having worked at a few of them in my time, it's expense management has been part of what they do, culture and understanding, and it was where the T&E tools first approached. Now, there's many SMEs, and I think their approach to finance is maybe based on what their accountant does or a finance system, not necessarily understanding how, sort of day-to-day expenditure, which is non-capital or non-sort of overhead expenditure, can be captured in a much better way. I'm a small business. We use it. I've used it from day one. Why? Because we have a team that's all over the place, and actually they know they approve, put mileage, put expense in, done, send through. I have a look at it. Cool. Guess what? When I send my books into the accountant the year end, there's no questioning around the T&E, because it's all done. It's all categorized correctly, and that probably saves me as a business quite a bit. So when you expand that out to a larger size business, a larger SME business, why are we sending? I know we are sending receipts to accountants for them to scan and put into a system for expenses. That is costing you money as a business that you could utilize somewhere else. If you get people to self-serve, which is what they want to do, and people are so used to using cameras to scan stuff that it's a no-brainer. Give them the tech, it's on mobile, and everybody benefits.
That's right, exactly. And also the self-service point that you noted out that's a great one, Gavin. I mean, I think all small businesses where they're running faster towards a specific goal. I think certain things they expect it to be self-served, so they are able to do it on their own, and there's no there's no waiting for someone who is going to magically turn up and then do things for them. So that's a great one. And I mean, there's a saying that theory is great, but results are much better. So can you share some examples, maybe an SME case where this has specifically worked out, and what were the metrics that you had taken into account before and after the implementation?
A recent reason we did sort of towards the end of last year is 4 countries. We implemented it. We put the policies in per market in various currencies. And actually, the biggest benefit and the feedback we saw was the finance guy was like, wow, I get my reporting. I don't know what to do. But actually, the biggest benefit we saw and the feedback we saw from employees going, wow, I'm getting back pretty much my last Friday of the month. I know everyone says that, but you think, yeah, it's just urban myth. But actually, you're on a call doing follow-ups, and they're going, man, I've got my Fridays back. So there's your measurement already. The approver's already going, wow, I'm not having to wait until the last Friday of the month to approve anything, because people know if they've traveled and they're not traveling for the rest of the month, they can send through it, and I can approve it as they go, and finance knows what's going on. So I suppose those are real results, and you can't beat that better sort of feedback. Yes, there's going to be statistics around various processing times. But I think those are the key things, that finance was getting the stuff in quicker. Employees were going, I got time back. I got a lot more time back. And so were the managers. That's a win across the board.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, that's a win-win for both the, stakeholders in that case, both employees as well as the company, right? And yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense, Gavin. I mean, a recent study that I got to check, actually said that companies which had, digitalized their travel and expense management, almost, saves up to 80-85 percentage of their total time spent on creating expenses and then submitting them. And like you earlier pointed out, it also brings in faster closures with the expense reports and the payouts to the employees. That's a great use case to know. And there's always, I mean, recent times, I mean, there's been a lot of hype around AI and being able to use AI-driven chatbots across different domains, and it's been had its fair share of impact in expense management as well. But honestly, do you think that AI can actually drive compliance or or improve policy adherence within an organization? What's your thoughts on the AI impact on expense management?
I think the impact's already been there. AI in its form, in its current form, not necessary, but AI has already been there in terms of definitely around OCR, how it looks for policy management, how it looks for duplicate invoices being or receipts being uploaded, and various things. So I think in the back end, AI or sort of that environment has been there helping sort of the policy management. I think where it now comes into is actually that ability when someone's not sure to ask a question, can I spend it? Can I spend it on this? Yes. Not take my client out for lunch, spend £800, come back in, and the boss goes, nah, done. You can't have that, And also ensuring that the fiscal requirements are correct based on the country that you're in. And that can ensure as a reminder going, have you added a VAT receipt? It can also remind you it can give you the guidance to follow the process of creating your line, creating the report, submitting it, making sure you're not leaving stuff behind. And actually, AI, if you use a receipt sort of folder within your phone, for example, it will go and look and say, hey, I see that you've taken some photographs, so you haven't uploaded them. That's where you're wanting to go to. That's prompting you going, actually, I have uploaded them already. Is this correct? Because it knows where to go look. So those are some of the benefits where it actually starts doing stuff on your behalf. And I think, it's again, fewer errors, less manual intervention, and taking away that manual writing. OCR has taken away a lot of adding the expense. Now AI will just sort of help you deliver what you do the rest of it for you. You make sure it's cool, send it off, back end stuff works, gets approved, get your cash. I think it's good.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, AI should be complementing more to make users complete their expense reporting faster than ever, right? So, I mean, like you said, things like having a policy chatbot to be able to talk to and then understand what your limits or applicable rules or restrictions. I think that's an interesting case to know. And yeah, I think we are almost done here for the webinar today, and I know that everyone in this room might be thinking that okay, we've got all this information, but what are we going to do on Monday morning, right? So I mean, I just wanted to get practical and understand certain let's say key takeaways from this webinar, Gavin. I mean, can you give us probably like an audit checklist, as in what should companies evaluate about their current policy, and what are, I mean, according to you, what is the first concrete move that they'll have to take in terms of moving towards a future ready policy?
Cool. If on Friday you're having to take photocopies or make copies of receipts and put them on a piece of paper and fill in items in an Excel spreadsheet, I think that's the first action flag that goes, maybe I need to look at some travel and expense technology. But if you're already gone past that and you're using tools and you're moving or you're thinking about it, so have a simple sort of starting point as are your employees guided at the point of spend? Meaning, do they know what they can and can't spend? Do they know the limits of the various items? And it's not only T&E related, it can be related to procurement, depending on the type of product that you have. Because, with hybrid working, people are not only buying and spending stuff on the T&E side, they're also procuring because you allow them to get a new monitor, for example, or I don't know, they need paper for a printer, or if you've got centralized procurement, that's cool, but you may not, depending on an SME, so they need to expense that. How are your policies enforced? Automatically or manually, meaning, does the employee send it in and hope they're going to get the cash back? Or is the employee confident that when I submit it, everything's fine because it's all been checked and I know that I'm going to get it approved? And if there is some exceptions, I can add a line or an exception there saying, this is what had happened, and actually that my manager has the authority to approve it and move it through. And basically, are your digital records ready for upcoming compliance changes? So, fiscal requirements change regularly. Keep up to date and understand what is it that you need to be, what records do you need to be keeping to ensure that you face audit some of the corporate social responsibility emissions and various things that are happening. Because if you start getting into that habit now as a business, when they come through, there's no big change for you. So just start slowly, rather get used to doing it before you have to do it. And these things will come through to us. So, those will probably be the three things that I would say, have a look at and think about, and then, do some research and work out, what it is within where you are that is going to help your employees and your employees, finance and HR have a much better experience managing that T&E for your business.
Yeah, that's great insights, Gavin. I think the audience that we have in the room would now have something to it's something that they can start working on with respect to managing their T&E. So if let's say, if anyone from the audience would like to know more about Zoho's expense solution, how do you recommend that to be taken out, Gavin? And I'm just going to quickly share my screen as well to show the contact information as well. Just a moment.
They can get hold of us. We're an independent. A little bit about us in terms of where we are from a Zoho expense and why Zoho expense. So a few years ago when I started the business, we actually started on Zoho. So we are a Zoho customer before we were a partner. And one of the key things I liked about it coming from my background was that there was an expense solution included in it. So we started using expense from day one because my background at various large multinationals was this is a good thing to do. And actually, it was through your introduction of Zoho Expense 2.0 that led me to move to become a Zoho customer systems partner with a real focus on expense. So I'm not just talking about what we sell, I'm talking about how we use it and what we do for customers. So within smaller businesses, we do the same thing. So again, if you're looking to find out information, have a look, search Zoho Expense in your LLM or in your browser. Get hold of me. Details here. There's my email address, LinkedIn, our website. Give me a call, send us an email. I'm happy to chat and give guidance and just give people some clarity and understanding. But also make sure that while we promote and we are a Zoho partner, I have to be honest and go, look, there are other tools in the market. Make sure the technology works for the business that you're in and the systems and processes that you have. Because your expense tool may be related to what you have as a mid or as a finance tool. And so you need to think about those integrations too. But my experience is working with this product, the ability to integrate into the key sort of ERP and finance systems is already inbuilt. And actually, we get a lot of customer satisfaction on it. I haven't had anybody who's been unhappy who's put it in yet. So there we go.
Yeah, definitely. And for anyone who's looking for, assistance, or let's say anyone who's evaluating travel and expense management solutions in the audience, you can feel free to reach out to Gavin. He's probably our go-to guy for, everything with respect to expense and other Zoho products as well that he has wonderfully worked on over the last 6-7 years. I can definitely watch for him to be the best guy to help you guide on anything with respect to travel and expense policies. So yeah, I think we've now come to the dawn of the session. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A section of the webinar. So there's a Q&A section right at the bottom. If you notice, there's a small icon. You can just click on it and post in your questions. We'll be on live for another couple of minutes and then wind it up.
If not, thank you very much for attending. Good to see you all. And if you weren't able to attend live, you will get this recording. And so please have a look. And we look forward to getting some feedback on hopefully how this helped you sort of think about your T&E and the policies and how you do stuff for the future for your business.
Oh, definitely.